finished. In fact, I've got one more bit to go, which is how to change the law. This is an election year, and this is where my discussion with Paul perhaps gets a bit more pointed. We need to have a new set of MPs in Parliament. If we don't have 165 minimum, 65 minimum, who will agree to a law change, there won't be a law change. So we have to get those MPs there, and there's different ways of doing it. We could try to convince them all just to be good, or we could force them, which I'll talk about in a minute. Matthew Hooton wrote on the Drug Foundation website. He's got a little article. He reckons that John Key is convincible, that he could. I know, I thought it was rampant electioneering on Matthew's part myself, but he reckoned that John Key was convincible that to support some form of decriminalisation.
He had openly expressed his view that he won't change the rules on cannabis. He's definitely against it.
He won't touch it with a barge pole.
That was a year ago.
Yeah. Labor certainly aren't going to do anything before the election, but they could well afterwards. They've been, for the last 2 terms, they've had 2 major social reform issues that they have dealt with. The first one was prostitution law reform. The second was Section 59. So they've weathered both of those. They would have the stomach to weather another one. And it's a question of trying to make it cannabis as opposed to something else. So we have to find a way of making it the single most important social reform issue on their agenda. In part, that will be from lobbying and campaigning, assuming that they get to be government, and again I'll get to that in a minute. They could well be lobbied very strongly. Their supportive MPs who do support decriminalisation could be lobbied much stronger to make it a key issue for their social reform. They will only have the stomach to do one thing next term if they do get in, and it would have to start early. Would have to start at the end of this year. The campaign would have to be ready for, which means that the law reform movement would have to be ready for a major campaign for reform of recreational drug use. I'm not talking about medicinal use, but recreational drug use. If we're going to have a go, you've got to go for what you really want and go hard at the time. But of course we won't have an election until October, November, so it's going to take a while to see how things are going to pan out. And then it comes back to the point of who you're going to vote for, because if one of the reasons why we've been hogtied is because the Green Party has not had enough members of Parliament to force Labour to swallow the dead rat that they don't want to swallow. We've been shut out twice now because they've had the option of getting their votes from United Future and New Zealand First. Because they have that option, they will not choose us. And they won't choose us because we don't come cheap, and because they don't understand us. They don't really know how we operate, and we confuse them. They know how New Zealand First operates. They are bully boys. They know how United Future operates. They're the same. Labour does exactly the same. It's their culture. They get it, but they don't get us, and they don't get the Māori Party either, because we work in quite different ways. So they will only be in a position to really make the change if we're in the position to force them to do it. And we have to have the numbers to do it. And that's where, it's not that the Greens think that cannabis voters are Green voters, but that the real politic, I think that's the right phrase, is that if ALCP gets 1% of the vote, that's a whole MP for us. If we had had one more MP last time, we would have been able to keep United Future and New Zealand First out of government. We only needed one more. We didn't have it, so it didn't happen. So we go through a whole nother 3 years of fighting and waiting till the next chance comes. And now the next chance is in a few months' time, and we can't afford to keep wasting it. So that's how we make the change. That's one of the ways how we make the change, by being smart about what we want to achieve and using our votes in a way that's going to achieve it. So, thank you very much for your time.